The day after, the shack, St. Marie. I'm not sure about this, Camille. Yanor. Officer Dwayne Myers put his hand through the open window of the Land Rover and rested his arm on the paintwork. Since Camille's declaration to the officers and friends of Roberta Weymouth, he had been nervous. D.I. Poole must have known that he and Charlotte A. Broken Bar Diana Broken Bar had hid our broken bar thing a broken bar. It'll be alright, Fidel told him. But none of them felt anything was alright when they saw that there was a wheeled case on the veranda. I'll go in first, Camille told them, taking in their expressions. After a few minutes she beckoned to them. I can't see him anywhere, she told them. But his case, I can, Fidel told her, and pointed to the ocean. 500 yards separated, roast beef from the shore. Richard didn't seem to be making any attempt to row her. Come on, Camille encouraged. There was something wrong, something terribly wrong. What? Dwayne asked, then added, in what? When Camille's hand gestures indicated she wanted to go after him. Dwayne's prowess at knowing virtually everyone on the island resulted in a boat of a similar size to roast beef being borrowed from a cove around the corner, and all three officers clambered uncomfortably inside. Camille did not know when Richard first noticed them, but he did not make any attempt to row even within shouting distance. Get me up close, Camille told Dwayne. And they bobbed alongside the ancient boat that they had resurrected for the DI, and Camille put her leg over the side, and dropped in. Sir, Camille began, admonishingly. But then she saw his face. Diana Broken Bar Shazer Broken Bar, her body's going home tonight, back to the UK. Inspector Poole looked across to Camille, but could only hold eye contact for a few seconds. He broke off, as Camille urged Fidel and Wayne to rope the two boats together and row back to shore. Yes, she was special to you. You were telling me last night. You loved her. Richard moved his head to Camille again. I loved her. How could I not? And I treat a broken bar, but she hadn't a broken bar. The conversation lapsed and Camille took his hands in his, and rubbed her thumbs on the back of his hands for a moment, before letting go. Perhaps this is why there had always been a barrier there. He had a wife, estranged, whom he loved and was now consumed with grief. All those opportunities a broken bar, and I doubted here a broken bar. I turned her away a broken bar. Now, sir, Camille replied, her voice firm. She had let her house be used for nefarious purposes. A broken bar gun running, snuggling a broken bar. Her voice trailed off as she watched the corners of his mouth turn up. All through the device of MI6, it was all controlled. Run. Through the man you knew as Harris Kerr. Richard shook his head. They had played it so well that even I was convinced, even when she sent me little things in the post. I ignored her. I assumed she was dangerous. And she wasn't, Camille soothed. She was the person who you had always, and refused to look at Dwayne, loved. She played her part to perfection. A broken bar, dear Diana Broken Bar. But why all those names, Chief? Apart from trying to hide, Dwayne couldn't keep quiet any longer. And this seemed the less risky of all the other options he could think of. Because she loved Dorset, Richard Poole replied. Whenever I was back from university, she was at the cottage. A broken bar. I took her to the seaside. We went to visit a lot of places. A broken bar. The objects were of those places. A broken bar. Even the fossils in the deceased Roberta's pockets. And there was a set of books by a well-known UK children's author set in Dorset. She liked the names of the children, even refused to answer unless people called her Dinaha Broken Bar. The family name was Trent. She chose 7. Richard Poole broke off and began to laugh, which almost at once became gut-wrenching sobs. Guess that figures the towns you were investigating, Dwayne told Fidel, as they dipped the oars in the water, including Poole. We spent so long together. A broken bar. Then we were apart. A broken bar. We were pulled apart. A broken bar. He shook his head. Her mother, my father. A broken bar. If only I had stood up to them. A broken bar. Trusted Diana Broken Bar. She has left the cottage to know Svensson's donkey sanctuary, that the animals will be cared for while he is in prison. A ward sheep. A broken bar. The cottage reverts back to ownership of the church. You see. A broken bar. They moved towards the shore, and when they got close enough, Fidel jumped out and untied their boat, dragging it ashore before doing the same with roast beef. This time, Richard Poole got out into the wave wash and put a hand out to Camille, who took it. "What's with the case?" Camille asked, asking the question she knew she didn't want an answer to. Inspector Poole looked from the case to Camille. "I loved her, so very, very much." A broken bar. Then he straightened up. "And, because I knew her the most, I am going with her her body back to the UK." There were no more words. Camille looked to Dwayne and Fidel. Yes, they felt her impending, deep, deep loss. "We'll drive you, then." 88,888,888. A fortnight later, on DS Bordy, replied Commissioner Selwyn Patterson. When Camille had introduced herself on the phone, she had already called about speeding drivers and sample bags. He wanted her to get to the point. "I haven't heard from Inspector Poole," Camille told him. "D.I. Poole is on compassionate leave in the UK," he told her. "And I understand he will be returning imminently." "He hasn't called," she told him, revealing her heart. "D.I. Poole is dealing with a personal matter," the commissioner told her. "He is due time to grieve. I think you would agree, DS Bordy?" "Yes." "But," he added, and even over the telephone, felt Camille brighten, for he had seen the embrace she had given him before he left, "there will be a DI with you imminently. D.I. Poole has given me no indication that he will not return a broken bar." "Have you," Selwyn Patterson said, to the name D.I. Poole in his telephone address book, when he had finished the call to Camille. 88,888,888. 2 days later, on "You know the chief is returning tonight?" Dwayne's words were said in passing, but caused Camille's day to turn from an organized schedule to a whirlwind. Fidel and Dwayne were as caught up with it as she was, and word came from the commissioner that he was meeting D.I. Poole's flight. "He's not coming," Camille told them, as they sat in her mother's bar, drinks in hands. 4:30, his plane lands, bags, drive to here. Broken bar. Is it after 5:45? Dwayne nodded his head. The commissioner appeared, and told them that there had been a hitch on the front of D.I. Poole returning. Camille felt her heart hammering. He wasn't coming, he never was a broken bar. He was grieving the loss of his friend, wife, and coming back to where she had been killed was too much for him. And a broken bar. Who was she? What really was their relationship? A broken bar. Camille turned her downcast countenance to Dwayne and Fidel. But, before either of them could say anything to Camille, they were distracted by a crunch of feet on gravel. "Lost my luggage again," D.I. Richard Poole declared. "I only took one case and a carry-on, and look, no case. It's a 30-seater aircraft, for God's sake." "You'd think that." He broke off, and saw the three of them, waiting. "I'll leave you with your team, D.I. Poole," Commissioner Patterson told him, and, just before he left, laid a hand on his shoulder and passed a couple of words to his ear. "Are you all right?" Camille asked him, wanting to wrap her arms around him, and kiss his cheek. She saw him appraise the table. "Before we do," he told them, "there's just one thing I have to do." Broken bar. Tell her parents a broken bar. Camille took a few steps back, and frowned. That didn't seem right. "You just went back to the UK, buried her, and you have come all the way back here to tell her parents?" she asked, suspiciously. Richard nodded his head. "The core body has not been released yet." A broken bar. She was officially an MI6 agent. But Camille did not move her expression. "You don't know what they're like," Richard complained. "They did all they could to keep us apart." A broken bar. I remember a broken bar. Long days in the sun, days by the sea, picnics, rainy days playing Cluedo. A broken bar. He broke off, and looked to the floor. "Then, a drink, at my mother's." To mark Diana's memory. Camille saw Wayne's face as he left, as he pulled out his mobile phone. As he dialed, then stopped, closed his phone and then opened it again. "I loved her too," Dwayne told them. "I did not know she was his wife." Camille hung an arm around his waist. "She was truly remarkable, wasn't she? I'm sorry that I didn't have the patience to try to like her." She glanced at the table, on which there was a book. It was hers, and Camille put her hand towards it. "I'll speak to him about a broken bar." Diana. Broken bar at some stage, Dwayne added, mournfully. "I know this," she exclaimed, It is Ella's Delay venture. We had this author in school, they were very good. She paused, mid-grasp, and looked at Dwayne, who nodded. Yes, she added, they were set in Dorset, England, before the Second World War broke in Bar. Dad? Came a voice outside. Camille raised a hand. There was a pause, then, no, not this time. Camille got up and closed the bar door, taking a brief look outside beforehand. Richard raised a hand, clearly being invested in the telephone call by his ear. Diana, he told the telephone, as a passing Catherine laid a comforting hand on his shoulder. Yes, I need to call her mother. A broken bar. I took her back myself. A broken bar. She's at PC. A broken bar.